Hey guys, per usual, everything on this channel is for educational purposes only and is not intended as financial advice. So, gotta start off by talking about the network, what's going on. Talked a lot about this on the Twitter. Follow me, Carpe Noctem. We just had a difficulty adjustment for Bitcoin Cash. This will hopefully, and seemingly, if amorality is a thing, bring hash rate back to Bitcoin. You can watch this happen real time on fork.lol. They have plenty of great graphs where things are going and when. I particularly like blocks found per hour. Compares that nicely, shows you the effects of the difficulty changes. Block size shows you the transactions in the blocks. You can see Bitcoin Cash in general, it doesn't really have much of anything compared to Bitcoin or Ethereum, for example, in their blocks. And then if you want to look at the hash rate, this is a little lagged, but you can definitely see that plenty of hash rate went over to Bitcoin Cash due to the price increase and difficulty adjustment changes, which are due for a removal, the emergency difficulty adjustment, as it were. Removal through a hard fork on Monday, tomorrow. We'll see if that happens. It's either not going to happen or it's going to be a disaster. I really don't think it's going to go smoothly, but I wish them luck. How this has affected Bitcoin is block times at 18 minutes or more. Currently at 18, I saw 24 minutes as one estimate. Everything that's happening right now is what was predicted for SegWit 2x. If you watch my last video, if you read anybody talking about this who knows anything, a week ago we were talking about the network is going to have problems. People are going to use that against Bitcoin, saying it's useless and use something else like Bitcoin Cash, it's better, blah blah blah. So this is all part of the narrative, the propaganda machine. Another part of that is the mempool, which has been overloaded with 0 to 5 sat transactions for the past week or more now. That seems to be gone now, shockingly. I don't know why. I don't know if those are dropped off because they were removed by sender, if that's even possible, or if they were mined by miners. I don't think they were mined. But the general hypothesis here is that somebody's spamming the network to fill block size to further bring home the point that Bitcoin's broken, we need bigger blocks, fees go up as a result. So it's a living, breathing network. All these things are interconnected. If hash rate drops, block time goes up because difficulty doesn't adjust instantly. If hash rate drops a lot, block times go up even more because, again, difficulty takes time to adjust. And if hash rate stays low, it takes even longer for difficulty to adjust. I think I saw an estimate of like 30 days from now. That it's probably not what's reality, but it's probably 15 to 30 days until we get another difficulty adjustment. But then they can just do the same thing that they did with the previous adjustment and bring the hash rate back up right before the adjustment and then take it off again immediately after. So I'm predicting years down the road, probably less than 6 months, we're going to see some sort of change with difficulty adjustment. I'm not a programmer, I'm not in Core, I'm not in Blockstream, but seeing how it's being manipulated, I think enough people are going to have a problem with that. The user experience is diminished because of the fees, and if we were at 2 or 4 megabytes, they would just increase the spam proportionally, so none of that would really matter, to be honest. Here's how that looks currently. This is a 21.co. This is Earn, their rebrand. You can see there's 0 here now, which is what that Yokan website was showing, but there were plenty at 0. There are 53,000 in the last 24 hours between 0 to 5. So real people are here. You know, people who are pissed off are up here because they're spending 20 bucks on a transaction. And yeah, it's understandable that you're pissed off. I'd be pissed off too. But you know, I knew this ahead of time, so I'm not sending transactions right now. It's interesting that long shorts on Bitfinex haven't really moved at all. If anything, longs are being added up here. Shorts closed a little bit on the drop and the bounce, but longs not really touched at all. Right now we're sitting at 14,000 BTC in long short as far as the ratio is concerned. All right, some charts. Start with the cloud, we'll work our way up. So I talked about this in my Brave New Coin article, but the first sign of any return of the bull was the cloud flipping green, price being above cloud. None of this happened. So from my perspective, the cloud is always right. It's just whether or not you know how to read it, whether or not you listen to the cloud, whether or not you're paying attention to this time frame and these settings, whatever. So after this nonsense, there were no signals to go long here. Zero signals. There were plenty of signals to go short. It was below the cloud. On this Kumo twist, that's probably the signal to short. At that point, you would have been whatever 30 candles ahead was at that point, or 30 candles behind, but somewhere in here. And you can see we're getting Tenkin rejections, which are just super strong bearish momentum, essentially. We had the Kijun bounce down, but we want to return to 6,700, which is essentially the 50% of this zone. If this zone holds, which it may or may not, they may bring BCH to parity before Monday in a few hours. I don't actually know when the exact time for the hard fork is for them. I also put fractals on here. If you're short, you can see if you're short, you don't want to pass the green fractal, which is a bull fractal. You shouldn't be making bull fractals while breaking bull fractals while you're short. That's the argument here. Go short somewhere in here, and then you hold it. Your stops, just move them down. Boom, 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 boom. And then it gets stopped out at the Kijun bounce. So depending on how you want to play that, you either re-enter or you close, depending on how it looks. If you're not closing on this, you know, it's up to you. I didn't play it like that, so I can't really speak to what people did. 4 hour. So 4 hour had this cross here, recross here. So the trade was long here, close your long here, which is why I don't use the TK close as the close for the trade. I prefer stops. And if you're using the fractal stops, you would have opened here, moved up your stop here, moved it up here, moved it up here, and then you would have been out this whole time at 7,300, which would have been just fine. It's always interesting looking back at this, seeing how early these fractal stops are usually accurate. Even if you miss this, you know, it tells you over and over again. So let's say you missed all of this. You see the fractal here, you see a fractal print lower, or a candle close lower than the previous fractal. Your close is again here. So it's telling you over and over again to get out way before the TK cross did. We saw a 4-hour dragonfly, one of the longest in recent memory, with a $600 wick, something like that. Pretty cool. So that was a reversal sign for the moment. Here's daily, and again, I was expecting a pullback similar to this, and what do we get here? It happened a little early. Usually we ride the Tenkin for like a week before pulling back, but nonetheless, the level was there, the level held, the level can break, but it looks pretty good for now. This is the weekly Kijun all the way down here, 42.55, basically at the cloud level. Certainly possible we go that far based on the current manipulation. Here's weekly Kijun, weekly cloud, Kijun here, and again we're getting the stair step thing. That's fine. Nothing new on the chart really. That's why overall not surprised at any of this price action, despite other events. Here's daily B-bands, again B-band support somewhere around 5,200-ish. So plenty of reasons to bounce where we did. Let's move to Heikin Ashi 4 hour. I talked a little bit about Heikin Ashi in most of my 4 hour follow through videos, but if you're not using fractals, you can use Heikin Ashi. And you know, if you're long somewhere up in here, you're looking for these specific size shaped candles to move your stops to below the bottom wick. So you know, you're long from here, you move your stop here, great. You're stopped out here, or you even move your stop back up here, you know, whatever you want to do. But when you're seeing this stuff, that's when you got to be careful, especially this candle. Long-legged doji basically says it's 50-50. Huge sign for reversal. Sure enough, that's what happened. Again, despite FUD events, whatever's going on, it was on the chart due to the SegWit 2x withdrawal, okay? So anybody saying this is a complete surprise clearly doesn't know what they're looking at. So here's daily Heikin Ashi. Again, depending on where you're long, somewhere in here, either you move your stop to this candle, and then again move it to this candle specifically. Again, you're looking for these momentumless candles. Heikin Ashi is the measure of momentum. So momentumless candle, and what is that? Precedes the 3 down candles very nicely to get you out safely. Here's weekly Heikin Ashi, not seeing anything to suggest momentumless, whatever. I mean, we hit a momentum flip, as we have several times. So, you know, if you're long from 1,000 or something ridiculous, which a lot of people are, including myself on spot, you know, you can move your stops accordingly, or just let it ride, which I plan on doing. So you can always move these. You know, we haven't broken any of this here, just like we haven't broken the daily 200 EMA. Now let's go to EMAs and the 5200 going on the hourly on up. Hourly's been pretty noisy, so it's difficult to use this as a signal, at least for me. I wouldn't want to use this, so I'm not really going to talk much about it, but we were pretty oversold considering the distance from the 200 there. Here's the 4 hour. And on these past 4 hour drops, just like the cloud has been support, we've also seen these chart patterns. So basically we broke the cloud a couple times here, and then on the bullish continuation, we've had very strong and real price chart patterns predicting the reversal as well. So I'm expecting a similar thing here. Probably going to get an Adam and Eve. It's either going to be Adam and Eve or inverted head and shoulders. 3 drives is too early to tell. But overall, Adam and Eve, got to expect that first. This is one example. Here's Adam, Eve. Eve comes usually higher than the Adam, stabbed down. Just in crypto, that's what happens. If you're a chart pattern traditionalist, you'll disagree with that, but whatever. Trade it how you want to trade it. You can see the 200 here also had the neckline real nice like. So yeah, overall expecting a similar thing here. We still haven't had a bearish cross even, so it's pretty early to even look for that. Just a heads up there. So as we get the 4 hour TK or Kumo breakout, which is probably what's going to happen eventually, you know, everything's going to turn bearish and then reflip bullish, which is why I'm excited, because that's a definite long entry signal. Daily 5200, you can see we're basically at the daily 50, just to show you how overbought we were position wise, and there's still a lot of room for down should we want to reach for that 200, which is certainly within possibility. We've done it twice before, can do it again. We've done it even prior to that earlier this year, so it's not another question that this just keeps going. I certainly don't expect that. But if it starts going down, that's where I'll be looking. All the way down at 4,300, something silly like that. So we had a big range. You can draw some new fibs on this. You can always start with the high to low. Gives you some projections for the lows here. Again, 4K, something silly. I certainly don't expect that. For highs, 885, 93, realm possibility. You always want to look at the 50%. 6,700. You know, the bets on whether or not we're going to hit the local high again is basically whether or not we break the 50 on this range. So this will take a few days to decide itself, but it can certainly, you know, triangle out so that the 50 is the resistance and we get higher lows, and then it makes a decision from there. But I wouldn't expect us to immediately jump back to 8K over consolidation. I think we'll get some consolidation here. So here's the the log version of this high to low. You can see it hit basically all the 618 a couple times and retraced back to it. If we use the non-log version, we can see we were right where we should have been for a pullback. Talked about this in the last video too. So, I mean, it's pulling back on some big FUD, but that's good from my perspective, because this is fine. Everything's fine, right? It needed to anyway, and it hit the targets it should have hit. It's bouncing where it should be bouncing. I mean, everything looks normal to me. This 3 drive, I think, is done ski for now. We'll see if it keeps going into December, but it's probably fair to say that this is broken or invalidated at this point. Moving on to some pitchforks. This is just like snapping judgment at the most immediate high-low, basically showing mean reversion. Again, somewhere around that 50% of the high-low. So 60, in this case it would be 7K. You know, I don't expect that immediately, but the more we hold this, the higher the probability of hitting that median line again. Here's a larger pitchfork starting in 2017. Again, expecting this due to the SegWit 2X fork anyway, so bring it on. We're at the median line of this pitchfork. Again, expect that. Mean reversion will happen over and over again, as it's happened here, 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 here. You know, this isn't anything new, okay? Here's the rising wedge, probably the most surprising chart of all of them, considering it's still filling in the rising wedge. So this kind of gives some credence to that 3 drives, if anything. I'm still on board for 10K before the end of the year, but you know, when I posted this rising wedge in the Bitcoin, Brave New Coin article, it was questionably invalidating it, but this, you know, fill-in portion makes me think it's more real than not real. So I think we still have a bunch of up to go, and then we'll pull back in January, as we have almost every January in the Bitcoin's existence. And then lastly, gotta look at the quarterly chart. These are just OKCoin quarterly expirations, futures, essentially been the top and bottom every time. And you can see we've got plenty of real estate left for December, which is where we should see the top, and then dropped from there into January again, as we have every year. Here's January 2017. Here is January 2015, just some immediate years that you can look at. So it's always been bearish. That's all I have for today. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe. Hit me up on Twitter and Telegram, and happy trading.